EtsuNamu. Welcome to another video. Today we're gonna watch Why Are AAA Games Getting Worse by the Actman. This is an interesting topic. I hear a lot of gamers complain that games are not good anymore. I myself don't feel the impact as strongly as they do, I think, because I'm still playing a lot of the older games or games that have been out for quite a while, like Elden Ring. But it's interesting. I wanna see if there's something that I can relate with or I can learn from. So let's check it out.
Wow, this new Star Wars Outlaws game looks pretty great.
That's pretty good.
You know what? Let's check out the official website and see if we can learn more about the... Good Lord, what is happening in there? Pre-order. Get 3 days early access. Pre-order. You want to pre-order the Season's Pass and get 3 days...
Do you guys pre-order games? I don't pre-order games really. I think the only time I pre-order games is when I'm like trying to buy a Switch game physical copy. Otherwise, I don't.
Early access pre-order. That's four pre-orders on one screen. Extend K's journey with 2 upcoming DLCs. You want to play the exclusive Jabba's Fuckhouse? Pre-order. Unlock exclusive cosmetic pre-order. Are you fucking pre-ordering yet? You know what's funny? If you go to the Arrowhead Games
Wait, did they get a haircut? This is a new look. It's clean.
Website and just look at it. There's something special about an Arrowhead game. Games should challenge the creativity of the individuals who play them. We want our games to help forge
so peaceful
friendships. And look at that. Not even an advertisement for the Super Citizen Edition. I think this is a great way to illustrate what AAA gaming has become and what indie gaming has evolved into. The difference in priorities is clear, and you might assume, Actman, that's just typical Ubisoft greed and shenanigans.
Ubisoft, that sounds funny. Ubisoft, it sounds ulu. But yeah, there's just a lot of it feels like they're just trying to always sell you something. You get into the game and you just want to play and have fun and chill, but a lot of times there are also games when you load up, it's like sale. What is it? What's the name for that? Oh, FOMO. Time limited.
But you're wrong. It's worse than that. What Ubisoft is doing with Star Wars Outlaws is symptomatic of a much greater issue plaguing all of AAA gaming. Recently, Ubisoft dropped a story trailer for Outlaws.
Wait, I thought it was Ubisoft. Is it Ubisoft? I'm doubting myself.
Watched it, and I felt apathy. As you know,
apathy is death.
The gameplay reveal for Outlaws looked solid, but now I'm skeptical. Maybe it was the boring writing, the generic presentation, or the fact that they're directing people towards the $120 version of the game instead.
What is in the game that costs $110 or $18 a month? What can you possibly put into it? It's not like a MMO or anything, is it?
Instead of the standard version.
Hello, I like money.
Still, I don't remember the last time I felt indifferent to a new Star Wars game. On the flip side, one of my buddies sent me a trailer for a game called Kingmakers. I've never heard of this franchise nor the studio behind it, but let's check it out. What the fuck is this?
Wait, I feel like I saw a trailer for this.
It's a fucking Chevy truck. Oh, we're giving shotguns?
It's like a medieval times clash with modern times chaos.
Can the engine handle this many guys on screen? This is like Mountain Blade plus Dynasty Warriors with time travel? Grenades? Oh my god, and they have RTS mechanics? No shot. It can't get any crazy. And helicopters too? Here's the question of the
There's a helicopter and that is crazy.
day. Why, as a huge Star Wars fan, am I more excited for this and not this? Well, the answer is obvious. It's Ubisoft. But like I said, AAA gaming has been in decline for some time. Meanwhile, indie games have become a spawning pool for creativity and imagination.
Like they're probably thinking maybe when it's indie game, a lot of times they're thinking more about like, oh, what can we do that's fun, like creative, different, exciting. And then when it's like a big company where they also have to like meet a certain quota of like sales or income or whatever revenue, they can't not think about how we're gonna make money, how we're gonna make more money. Is there more ways to make more money? Stuff like that.
You may have seen the plethora of AAA gaming is dead.
Yeah, I've been
videos.
seeing those kind of videos all around. This is my first time watching a video on this topic, but it is like it has been recommended to me quite often in the past too.
Spring up on YouTube. Well, AAA gaming didn't just die, it was murdered. If you got that reference, welcome back to 2017 YouTube. Clearly, I'm not the only one who has felt disillusioned and apathetic towards recent AAA titles. But a lot of people focus on how AAA games have gotten worse. They highlight the obvious: excessive monetization, unfinished products being released. I can't
so
masturbate to this character. And while these are all issues worth pointing out, we need to understand why these things are happening. The bigger picture. You see, the reality is AAA games have become far too safe, formulaic, predictable, and just unexciting. Perhaps
is do what works and then throw in ways to make more money. Also, if you like hear me gulping liquid, my throat has been really bad recently, so I'm drinking some honey tea along while I watch this. So please excuse if you did hear it.
it's because you're an old jaded nerd, Act Man. No, that couldn't possibly be it.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
That's what we're gonna explore today.
Can't
The
be
decline
me.
of AAA gaming and the rise of indie. Why has AAA gaming gotten so bad? Now, first off, what the fuck does AAA actually mean? The Advanced Aardvark Association? Because I'd love to join that club. No, instead you should join my public Discord server, the Act Clan. Links in the pinned comment and in the little card up here. But the acronym originally referred to large budget, high profile games developed by reputable studios released by major publishers. You know, Halo, Call of Duty, Warcraft, The Witcher, 50 Cent Bulletproof, Cory in the House. Games that would shake the very foundation of the world. AAA games typically have large teams, expensive marketing campaigns, and copious amounts of funding. The term was teams, expensive marketing campaigns, and copious
$540 million. That's crazy. Like, I know games and movies, like, they have crazy budget, but like when I actually see it, it's just insane.
Amounts of funding.
Crazy.
The term was taken from the credit industry and applied to gaming once the severely obese corporate fat cats realized video games weren't a joke of a business and could actually make more money than Hollywood. For business moguls, AAA meant this is the safest investment you can make to get a return.
I also like heard someone say this, and I agree. Now that I've played some games, he said that he thinks video games are one of the best ways to, if not in his opinion, best ways to tell a story. And back then, like, I haven't really played that many games, so I'm like, okay. But after playing like some few more games, some bigger games as well along the way, it is so true. Like, it's one of the best ways to experience a story, because you can actually like be in the world and take your time around the world, and you can become the character. It's such a great entertainment. Like, it's fun, but also like a great way to like be entertained by a story or like a created world.
That's not the case anymore. Today, AAA mostly indicates the aspirations and cost of a game, not how safe an investment it is. From the 80s to the 2000s, there weren't many games that were commercial failures. It was mostly like failed consoles. And that's a good video to watch. But since the 2010s, as AAA gaming budgets have grown exponentially, we've seen some big-ass flops.
Also, maybe it's because like back then there weren't that many games, there weren't that many competition. So like they can't flop that badly, but like now, like unless the game's like really good, it can't soar like as easily as it could before.
Marvel's Avengers, Suicide Squad, Anthem, Redfall, Aliens, Colonial Marines. And in the last 7 or so years, it also seems like many popular franchises have released what fans consider to be the worst entry in said franchise.
They probably thought like, oh, this is gonna be safe. People are gonna love it because people are familiar with this franchise, and then they flop. Maybe because they didn't try hard enough, thinking that like the knownness of the franchise will carry them. I don't know.
Fallout 76, Battlefield 2042, Mass Effect Andromeda. Maybe this is all just a coincidence.
But as one trained in the Force, you know that true coincidences are rare.
So what gives? Why have things changed? Well, one of the driving factors behind the decline of AAA games is they've gotten too big. The pants do not fit anymore. For reference, vanilla World of Warcraft was made by a team of about 40 people. Helldivers 2 was made by a team of 100. Over 9,000 people contributed to Diablo 4.
What?
9,000?
9,000?
Starfield, 7 years in development, $200 million budget, 1,700 planets to explore. Todd, you think maybe we could tone that number of planets down to like 30 or maybe 10? 10 really good planets?
Those gamers desire 1,700 planets.
AAA games have exploded in size, scope, and cost to an unprecedented level. On one hand, a larger team has the potential to create something truly incredible, revolutionary, to realize their greatest ambitions. But this relies on having a cohesive vision amongst many people and the budget and resources to make it happen. However, the more ambitious a project, the more money invested into it, the riskier it becomes. Immortals of Avium, a game you probably never heard of, was the debut title for Ascendant Studios. And for some inexplicable reason, the game was given a budget of 125 million smackaroos, making it one of the most expensive video games ever made. What the fuck? Immortals sold poorly, and Ascendant, after releasing their first title.
I've never even heard of this game. Like, I don't know. Yes, I'm not the biggest gamer, but I do play on a pretty regular basis, and I've never even heard of this. Also, it like reminds me, like I don't know what the term is called, but like I heard that if you set certain amount of time to do something, even if it may take you shorter amount of time, you will kind of like spend it all. So like say you have one activity and it usually takes you like 30 minutes, but then you are given like 5 hours to do it, then you'll become less efficient and it will take you longer than 30 minutes to do it. It could be because you think you have a lot of time, so you get distracted and you just kind of like also procrastinate. So like a lot of times excuse me, a lot of times people manage to like fill out the time that they actually have or they were given, even though they didn't need that much. And listening to this, I wonder it also kind of applies to money and budget. So like even if someone could have done it more efficiently with a smaller team where they could have like a tighter connection and well communicated vision and work very well together, because they're given more budget, they just spread out wider than they really need to, because just for the fact that they can do it, they can pay for it.
Had to lay off almost half of their staff. 6 months later, the remaining employees were furloughed, a fancy word for maybe you have a job, IDK, and the company's future is uncertain.
Dang.
Sometimes memes can spit truth. I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding. Immortals of Avium is a mistake that shouldn't have happened, and it's the exact type of reason why AAA publishers are sticking with familiar IPs and playing it safe. You guys excited for Call of Duty 26 to come out later this year? The bigger they are, the harder they fall. But
Why was Immortals, this random game, bloated with such a ridiculous budget and high expectations? Well, COVID-19 changed a lot of things. People bought a shitload of video games during that time, and some upper management folk adjusted their business. They saw this as an opportunity to invest. So they expanded operations, hired more employees, but of course, the video game sales caused by the pandemic didn't last. And we're now seeing the fallout of that overexpansion. Fallout New Vegas. 10,000 layoffs in 2023 and 8,000 more on the way. Over 30 studios were shut down, several games canceled. The hubris from corporate overlords has uprooted this industry in such terrible ways. Overloading teams with talented employees and a shit zillion dollars isn't some magical recipe for success. In fact, it puts the studio in a much more dire, stressful position, because if the game doesn't sell well, they're fucked. Blockbuster game development costs are out of control.
Like bigger budget, larger pressure to make more money. So then the games start throwing like little gimmicks to make more money. I guess that's where it's leading to.
According to a study by the CMA, a single AAA game could have development costs between $90 to $180 million, plus $50 to $150 million for marketing. That Suicide Squad game that 200 people are playing?
Well,
probably had an inflated budget. This is clearly unsustainable. It's like every major AAA game is some massive live or die gamble. Naturally, companies want to mitigate and avoid all the risk they can. So, again, they rely on established IPs and stick with what's familiar, and most of all, safe. So wait a minute, Ackman.
You can't be creative. Yeah, and then that leads to like all games kind of like feeling same, and it's kind of that's a really unhealthy cycle too, because then all the like not innovative safe games get all these budgets, and then games that are creative and different are viewed risky, and they're probably shut down when it's suggested as like, I don't know, I imagine like they have a team that come up with ideas and they can like throw it around. And so we just get big games that are like just like others. And then we see smaller indie games doing like cool stuff, but they have smaller budget.
Telling me AAA games have become a greater risk, but also safer?
That's a paradox, John.
Think about it this way. The bigger the budget, the more employees working on a game, the more copies it needs to sell. Therefore, it has to appeal to a lower common denominator. They have to simplify and dumb down something. They cannot take risks or experiment. They have to stick with what has proven to work. This is a huge reason why indie games such as Helldivers 2, Hades, Lethal Company are so much better at innovating on a popular formula or giving us something brand new.
Also, like Lethal Company, when you look at it, the graphics not crazy, but the idea is silly and funny, and just something people can like enjoy and have fun. I myself didn't really enjoy it that much. I found it like, I just found myself like following my friends around and just being like basically extra hand, because I tend to be really scared too. But there's still people who still love playing this game, and this is different. There isn't one just quite like it. And the idea sells. You know, even like games like Among Us, it's not a crazy game to build. It's like, it looks pretty simple. It doesn't take, it's a small game. And I think that when there's like a lot more money, it'd be great if that could be used as like partly that you are allowed to take more risk. Even the investment, I always hear people are like, oh, higher the risk, higher the chance of reward. Like, it's like a low chance, not low chance, but like low chance of a very, very high reward. And that's why some people, you know, lose a lot, but also gain a lot through investing in a risky way. And I'm not saying like that's what people should do, but like when a company or when a team can afford to take those hit of losses, you would think that'd be great if they can take some risk and do something innovative so they can have like a high reward. But they can't because they're forced to play it safe. But then also while they're playing safe, they're also forced to make a lot of money. So how do they make the money? Through, like, I guess microtransactions and battle passes and stuff.
Which would you rather play, Back 4 Blood or Deep Rock Galactic? I better see some fucking rock and stone in the comments. But that's the thing, Back 4 Blood is a cheap imitation of what inspired it, while Deep Rock Galactic is a unique twist on the whole four dumbasses trying to accomplish something co-op game. Deep Rock is brimming with charm, style, and this is gonna sound cheesy as fuck, but you can feel the love that went into it.
It does matter. It may sound cheesy, but it really does affect when you can feel like, oh, this was made with passion. When you can actually feel that, like, it's not by mistake. And neither of those, well, they both like look like shooters. So I don't think I would play, but the game, the latter game, it does look more interesting to me. But I don't know if it's because it is better or it just looks better to like my liking. But yeah, it definitely makes a big difference when you're playing a game and you can feel like, oh, this was made with love. It doesn't happen often though, but when it does, it's a big deal.
You can't say the same with Back 4 Blood. What are some other examples that illustrate how games have gotten safe? Well, let me ask you this. Did you think for 1 millisecond that the Modern Warfare 3 remake was going to do the no Russian scene justice? Did you think it was going to be as shocking, if not more so?
No!
I don't know what they did.
No!
You look like one.
What is this?
Ooh, oh, give the writers a raise. Of course not. Like, even Call of Duty feels like it's been sterilized. But of course, there's some exceptions with, like, Cold War. I mean, that game took some serious risks with its campaign and story, and it paid off. Gamers love being surprised. We love being thrown for a loop, because it's so hard to do now in the age of the internet and with all these leaks and everything. This is why Helldivers 2's live service is retaining so many players, because there haven't been any roadmaps going into excruciating detail about what to expect. It's why the redemption of No Man's Sky hit so hard, because Sean and Hello Games just went into hibernation and came out when they had something to show people. When I say safe, I'm not just talking about the lack of innovation with game design, but also the writing. AAA franchises that used to go really hard with the dialogue now feel tame, like they're pulling punches. I'm not a huge expert on Fallout, so Fallout fans, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But there is a massive difference between Bethesda's Fallout games and the other Fallout games. In New Vegas, you can literally sell drugs to children. Like that's a real choice you have in the game. You can be an absolute maniac. You can shake down a guy for caps and he'll say, well, you've taken everything but the clothes off my back. And then you can say, actually, give me your fucking clothes too.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, for some reason, I just can't picture these types of things being in a new Fallout game. KOTOR 2 is also a fantastic...
You know, also speaking of like writing in a game, the game currently that I'm playing, one of them is called Another Craft's Treasure. Playing through this game at the moment, there's just so many times where I'm just like, oh, I love the writing in this game. This game's writing is so good. It's like silly, and you know that they're trying to like make punny jokes, but it's also like, it hits. It's not cheesy, and like, it's a cute game, and the graphic isn't like insane or anything, but like, it does so much for world building and making you feel immersed and care about what you're doing, care about the mission, care about the characters. So writings make a lot of difference, and I've been feeling that a lot too right now as I play through the game. And if you haven't played it, you should check it out. I feel like Souls-like game.
Fantastic example, because I doubt we'll ever see a Star Wars game that takes the franchise in such a bold direction. KOTOR 2 is a Star Wars game where the main villain wants to kill the Force, destroy the Force, like remove it from the universe, destroy the concept of Sith and Jedi completely. There's no way in Nar Shaddaa we'd ever witness a Star Wars game that delves into that sort of thing. According to Obsidian, Chris Avallone, one of the main writers for New Vegas and KOTOR 2, Obsidian made multiple proposals to develop spin-offs for Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, all of which were turned down by Bethesda. And while we can only imagine the reason why, perhaps it was too risky in their eyes. Here's another example, Halo Wars 2. Console RTS, pretty niche, but its expansion, Awakening the Nightmare, was the first time in a decade we saw the Flood in a Halo game. Why haven't the Flood appeared in the main series? Don't want to risk lowering the sales with an M rating, right? M-rated games don't sell too great, do they? Speaking of Rockstar, God, this industry pisses me off sometimes. LA Noire 2, where is it? Bully 2? And you might think, well, isn't that hypocritical, Ackman? You were just complaining about these companies sticking to established IPs. But both of these franchises only have one game. And that's kind of my point. Instead of making one, $400 million game, why not cut a chunk of that out and develop multiple AA games?
What if they took one of these $150 million AAA budgets and made a couple of $20 million bets with them, right? And just funded a bunch of projects, and the risk is much smaller. And I think that would be very good for the industry. And I wish AAA would take more risks like that with smaller teams. And you would get that cohesion. You would get that sort of singular vision, I think, and stronger creativity out of it.
I at least understand this for
I also love that he's a VTuber. That's so cool.
Rockstar, because their games are so overhyped. If they released a sequel that you thought was a 9 out of 10, that would feel disappointing. A bunch of Halo spin-offs were also pitched to leadership at 343, including an ODST-themed game similar to Helldivers 2. Imagine what could have been. I guess I just don't understand why the corporate side of game development treats every title like it has to be an all-in bet. Do you see what I'm getting at? So many of our favorite franchises that we grew to love because of how bold they were are now playing it safe. And that's why indie and AA gaming is thriving right now, because they can take risks.
And like so many times, like I am like surprised as like I heard like Pal World is also apparently indie game. Like there are like a lot of games where I'm like surprised to hear that it is not backed by a big company or huge budget. Also, like at the end, the game has to be fun and different. Irreplaceable, I think, for someone to want to go back, be surprised by it, be charmed by it, want to go back over and over and play over and over, recommend to people to play. Like if it's just like all the other games that people have played, like there isn't really much of a reason to recommend other people to play. It has to be different too in some kind of way. You can't just be safe. One of my favorite games is Slay the Spire. In the game also you can see it's not a crazy game, but it has a really, really good idea. Also video games they're like art, they're story, and they're supposed to be creative work. So they can't like shut down the inspiration, creative side of it. And just only look at it as like, oh, this is the amount of money we have and this is the amount of money we gotta make and these are the restrictions. Like in some kind of way, I think it still needs to stay or have essence of passion projects.
They're not obsessing over how many people are gonna buy the game. The developers of Palworld were like, well, hope this doesn't make us go bankrupt. Indie studios are operating at the level that AAA used to. And when you don't have to make hundreds of millions of dollars to keep your company afloat and not fire your entire studio, you can take risks. And going back to my initial comparison
they can afford it with that kind of huge budget. They can use that to take some risk. Have a risk budget, you know? Even like investors, I feel like they also kind of like have like a budget where it's like, oh, it's like we can afford to lose this much, or like if we go below this much, we back out. So obviously you can't back out like how you do on your personal investing, but have a budget for that in mind.
Arrowhead and Ubisoft, there's a huge difference in the mission.
Is it Ubisoft or Ubisoft? I'm pretty sure I've never heard someone say Ubisoft until today.
Statements of AAA and indie games. Baldur's Gate 3 is an indie game.
No way! Really? Oh, I thought it was AAA for sure. I didn't know that. That's insane.
Is an independent studio, but the quality is so
It's
amazing. You'd assume it's AAA, right?
Yes.
There's this trend of indie developers reassuring customers that they're not going to nickel and dime us. No, there are no in-game purchases in our game. We believe in providing a complete and immersive gaming experience without the need for additional purchases. Vermintide 2.
Like, okay, I think that if they want to make extra money, make the game amazing. Make the characters interesting and great. Make it an amazing experience. And then sell merch. Sell physical merch. People will love it. People will buy it. People will share it, take pictures of it, post it online. It will be a marketing. It'll be great.
Is one of the only games to do loot boxes right because they didn't sell them. At the height of the loot box craze, no less. Helldivers 2 doesn't let you pay for tiers in the freedom passes. Indie developers can afford to be more player friendly because they don't have these investors hanging over their heads and these massive budgets. You might think all these egregious microtransactions is just pure corporate greed, and there's a good chance some of it is, but it's also a safeguard, like a necessity. And I think the solution is just to make games smaller, dude. Now, a really shitty byproduct of this risk-averse mentality is that a lot of these publishers are looking for a quick buck. They want to make easy money. So what do? Bingo! Flood the market with shitty remasters. Boy, there's been an abundance of these lately. The Last of Us 1 on PC, GTA Trilogy.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Hell, even Dark Souls Remastered sucked major ass.
It did. I was thinking about playing that one day. Is it bad?
Don't even get me started on the fucking Battlefront collection. Did you know that at one point Warcraft 3 Reforged had like 3 people working on it? Like one guy was supposed to remake all of the cutscenes. And this is so perplexing. These studios dump 10 figures into a new game, but can't even hire 10 people to make a decent remaster.
It's like do you always have to go all in or nothing? No.
It's like there's no middle ground. It's either no budget or dump the bank account. Meanwhile, Lethal Company, made by one guy. Now, because studios are investing so much, they tend to...
Lethal Company was made by one guy. Let's go. Like, Stardew Valley was made by one guy. You know? Passion project is OP.
Interfere with the creative process to insane degrees. They see trends that are making money elsewhere, and they think, well, let's just throw that into our game. I'm funding this. What I say goes. Redfall lost 70% of its arcane staff during development, struggled the whole way.
It's like also if the people who make decisions are the people who are just like investing and they're not playing the game and they don't care about like the game really, they just care about the return on their investment, then to them good game equals lots of money. Or lots of money or lots of income equals good game. Not a lot of money or less money equals less game or like not as great game or bad game. But that's not always the case either. And also the percentage of your return can go up greatly if you just put in less and then like have a smaller project too, but it will still perform kind of like as well as others. It'd be different if like the people funding it are also gamers themselves and are also like wanting the game to be fun and different, and they see it as a passion too. But yeah, if they're only looking at it in the perspective of like more money equals good, then that's just not how art is made often.
Of Redfall began in 2018 as parent ZeniMax was quietly looking to sell itself and was encouraging its studios to create games as a service projects like Overwatch. Microtransactions were intensely encouraged. However, the problems in trying to develop Redfall surfaced early. Firstly, management kept offering conflicting visions of what the game would and should be,
and then they go back and forth because they don't have shared visions. Too big team too as well, but also like from above, like they're probably not as involved in like the making of the game too. So people who are not doing it are keep changing their minds, and people who are actually putting their their work and time and energy into making it have less say in the direction.
Developer confusion about what they were creating. How to reconcile single player and multiplayer within an Arcane game was never really resolved either. Secondly, Arcane employed fewer than 100 people, which had been enough to make a single player game, but was not a healthy number for developing a large multiplayer game with microtransactions to manage. Outsourcing work to other studios was reportedly not enough to alleviate the strain. As a result of plummeting morale and lack of direction, veteran employees left the company in droves, with about 70% of the staff ultimately leaving Arcane. Redfall is not the only story of its kind. You can look at most AAA flops or AAA games that severely disappointed, and you'll find something similar. Management interfered. Management wanted this. I imagine they feel they have to micromanage these things, again, because of the investment. Sometimes with AAA games, it feels like there's too many cooks in the kitchen.
I feel like management's role in this case should be to like manage so that you can like support the vision, the project to be able to actually come through, not become a hindrance. You're supposed to manage in the way that you're supportive, not in the way that you're actually like nerfing your own team or stressing your team more. That shouldn't be the role that they play, but I feel like often they end up becoming the stressor instead of being like the one who makes the job more manageable.
And Gordon Ramsay is pissed.
What are you?
Oh my gosh.
There's got to be a happy middle ground in dev team size. Too small and you feel like the world rests on your shoulders. Too big and you feel like you have zero agency and influence. These big dev teams, especially when they're spread out against multiple studios across the country, can sometimes have very inefficient communication, bureaucracy. Next Battlefield has the largest development team so far. 1 year later, former DICE dev says 2042 never stood much chance being great at launch. There's a video by Timothy Kane, the creator of the original Fallout, about game development caution. And he talks about how certain things in game development now that could be fixed in 45 minutes now take 4 weeks.
When we were making the Outer Worlds, the combat AI wasn't really in yet, so I asked for a very simple combat aggression code to be added. This is how simple it was. Every time an NPC got shot, they would see if that person was on the list of someone who'd shot them. If they weren't, they'd add them to the list with the amount of damage they just took. If they were already on the list, they'd just add the amount of damage they took. Whenever they're deciding who to attack, they attack the person at the top of the list. That's it. That's all I wanted. The programmer who it got signed to came to me and said, I need 4 weeks. And I'm like, why? Walk me through what you're going to do. And he goes, you don't understand. And I was like, I've coded this 3 times. Walk me through it. And he wouldn't. He left. He left angry. Lead programmer came back, started yelling at me, saying, if he says he needs 4 weeks, he needs 4 weeks. And I'm like, then I will do it. I'll have it done before lunch. And he said, no, because then people will have to support your code. I'm like, I'm going to walk you through what I want. And you tell me why this takes 4 weeks. He looked at what I wrote, which was about 10 lines of pseudocode on a whiteboard. And he goes, I'll come back. He came back about an hour later and said, what about 2 weeks? And I said, do I have any options here? Fine.
Oh my gosh.
2 weeks. You want to fix these lines of code? That decision has to go through 10 fucking departments now. It needs to be approved by your manager, by your manager's manager. It has to go through the marketing team, the DEI office. The fucking janitor's cousin has to approve it. Indie developers don't have the same level of bureaucracy. I imagine if there's a problem with the code, you could just walk over to the cubicle of Jimbo and ask him about it without the fucking HR department breathing down your neck. Then you also have to make games that can be...
I'm also thinking, like, a lot of people who are in development or they're, like, making games and doing creative projects like this are, like, probably, like, creative brained, right? And a lot of them are quite independent and they also, like, you know, have a vision and they like to feel like they want to make it and they were part of it and they can be proud of it. And if they're so distanced from what they're creating like that, where they absolutely like can't make a decision unless like you wait for like a month, it sounds so suffocating. Like imagine you're like drawing a picture and to change one line, you have to wait like 2 days. And then like next day you want to change the next line because it needs to be improved. And you gotta wait another 2 days. Now that's not even 4 weeks, but that alone sounds awful.
Released in China, you need that China money. It has to hit certain quotas and scores on diversity, equity, and inclusion to secure funding. And the game needs to have microtransactions for this consistent revenue source, a live service business model, so that makes the investors happy. And can you see how creativity dies in this environment when games are made by committee and not creativity? It also seems like the more employees a company has, the easier it is for you to blend in and not be seen or heard. Indie studios typically have better working conditions with flexible hours. Employees have more creative control. Smaller teams allow the individual to have more influence on a game and a greater impact. I've seen a lot of articles from ex-developers who say, this game wasn't what we intended to make. It wasn't what we envisioned. Disagreements are going to spring up in game development, but it's easier to settle an argument between 2 people than it is 100. At the end of the day, indie gaming has risen where AAA has fallen. The decline of AAA gaming is due to the insane budgets, scope, and expectations of these games.
I think though, like, as more people support indie games and AA projects, smaller games, the more that they get more attention, more support, more purchases, hopefully that will also lead to gradually the people, like the investors, the management, to see that, hey, like, I think we need to put more into AA smaller games. We can cut some of our budget towards there. Like, the move isn't quite there yet, but hopefully, like, optimistically, it will lead to that, seeing that they see how well performing, how well received and praised the indie games and AA games are.
That affects the employees, the work environment, the investors and higher-ups who have to constantly micromanage these games and throw in their own ideas when they have no fucking clue what makes a good video game. I feel like a lot of these developers simply don't have the same luxuries and freedom to create art like they used to. Game development in the AAA space is now a committee process where simple solutions to bugs can take weeks, where the freedom to express and create art and take risks is suppressed in favor of creating the generic and the safe. Too many external factors have disrupted what used to be a creative process with the singular goal of making the best and most fun video game possible. It ain't about that no more. This shit has to make money, and a lot of it. And it's for all these reasons that AAA gaming is declining, and why indie titles are thriving. But what do you think? What are some of your favorite indie games? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Don't forget to join my public Discord server. Links in the pinned comment and the description. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and subscribe to the Act Man for more awesome content. All right, everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace.
Yeah, this is a great video. Hopefully the environment for AAA game studios will improve. Hopefully also a lot of the funds that just get dumped into AAA games can spread into AA or smaller projects to support creative ideas. Hopefully that will mean a lot of good games for us in the future too. But yeah, thank you for watching with me. I'll see you in another one.